So just to clarify, you know, with the Dragon Mother fight, do you think that can it be won after the age of 7? Because I haven't read all of your books, so I didn't get to that bit. So can you
Oh yeah, by listening to the work I've put out, my whole life has been dedicated to going into the deeply into this. Of course it can be. It's already kind of happening, right? Look at MGTOW, for instance, right? MGTOW is a pathetic attempt to win the fight over women who have grown up and not broken the dragon fight. Remember I said that the male world will be distorted in a woman's eyes by the dragon fight?
Yeah.
Well, part of that distortion, to unpack it a bit for just a second, and that is that when women who have been so castrated by their mothers go into the solar world, because they have to, you have to matriculate, go to school, marry, all the rest, but you're carrying with you all this hatred towards the mother that you deflect and project onto men. Then what you do is you create a kind of man in your children and in the male world. The men of the world are forced to, they're molded into the shape of what I call the chivalric type.
Mm-hmm.
It's not natural to men to be like this, but the chivalric type is this monstrosity that is produced by a toxic femininity. What has happened with MGTOW is that game is up. So after hundreds and hundreds of years, the chivalric mode, you know, in which men have conformed to, is now playing itself out, and men are not interested in it anymore. So what we're seeing now is one of those reactions toward, I'm hearing a noise in the background.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. My phone has never rung before, but it's ringing right now.
Okay, no worries. I just wondered what it was.
Yeah, well,
I just turn
it off now.
Okay.
Very sorry about that, Michael. It's actually never rung before.
I was just wondering what it was. So yeah, the age of the chivalric male is changing, and women aren't going to like it. So that will cause a third thing that, you know, who can predict, right? MGTOW is all I see with MGTOW is low-level criticism of stereotypical women. You know, women are bitches. They haven't got much further than that. They know nothing, zero, about the psychology that creates those types of women. Nor do they understand that they, as men, before they got the MGTOW, were a chivalric man, which is a preposterous creature to begin with. They never self-critique themselves. So that's useless, right? Right. The chivalric male is a compromise for a certain kind of female that has not won the dragon fight. These things, you know, one links to the other.
And how is he created then? Is he created because of his own mother? Because of his own mother has crushed his own will? And
women in general that he meets. Right. When you're in school, you realize, oh, they want alpha males, or they want this kind of man, or whatever, or the media is telling women they want. So the man eventually molds. He doesn't realize it, you know, but he hits Gold's Gym, and he's a jogger, and he's a, you know, wears the medallion, you know, and all this crap, right? All these imagos are based in something aberrant. That's why, you know, it doesn't work. That's why you don't have relationships working anymore and all of these things, right? But it takes two hands to clap, right? They've been watching too many fucking James Bond films and whatever, right? And they've lost what true authentic masculinity is. And we went into this in the Angels and Archetypes podcast, where I talked about the 4 imagos that, you know, women are attracted to or not attracted to, as the case may be, just to point this out, to emphasize that. So the masculine then is dragged into a, you know, it becomes emasculated. The chivalric man is a preposterous Frankenstein creature who doesn't understand what authentic masculinity is. And so we now have a feminization across the board that's going to hurt women and men. So that's another aspect of it as well, right? I think that on some very, very pure level, you know, there's a sort of a body aspect to this, but it's not the Reichian version, right? You know, this workout culture and all of this, which is meant to be identified with masculinity. No, it just doesn't work. You know, and really the way to see it is that both the male and the female are victims of the master slave. The parents instantiate it, and then you interject it. And so your whole life, you know, women's bulimia or anorexia, a lot of other syndromes that they have, you know, even the ones who are putting, you know, earrings through their noses and all the rest of it and living under bridges, it all comes from the same electrocomplex, you know, the matrophobia. And the remedy is psychoanalysis. Now, a 7-year-old can't read Jung and Freud and understand it. So, you know, but maybe a 14-year-old could. So it's going to be that your puberty is reliving a lot of this. And then you have from puberty to the 20s, you know, if your parents, if you're just very, very lucky, you know, you'll be able to maybe start, you know, primer material, read the Erich Fromm's, read the Arno Gruens, you know, and all the people that I recommend over and over again until people are sick listening to it. But there's a reason for that, you know. But to answer your question properly, if we don't get into psychology in the healthy way, because there's a lot of people into pop psychology, that doesn't work, then I'm afraid we're back to Julian James's premise, which is after all of the social crusading, the feminism will get to a point where everything will just collapse. The entire middle will just collapse into a lunar abyss. And we'll be back to the bicameral period, which I touched on earlier, in which the only way that you hold psyche together is by the instructional voice of a massively supernaturalized voice in the head, or more likely what Orwell and Huxley were talking about, which we will finally then, as the Soros types 1, we're actually, everything we're doing, we're playing into their hands of Big Brother, because they know that the full result of the demasculinization of the world will mean that the only thing that can hold the psyche together will be the cry for living under the shadow of a bestial, you know, Big Brother dystopia, the likes of which we've never seen. So when all these people are running around with their placards screaming about freedom and emancipation, I shudder, because they're going to get the exact opposite, because there's not an ounce of rationality in anything what they're talking about.
So shadow work could really be an antidote to a regressive society then. It really could, couldn't it?
Yeah.
It's really what we need.
And one other way to escape the tragedy of coming out of a relationship like that with your mother or your father, right? The whole horror of it is humor and comedy. Laugh at them, right? Laugh at the whole mess. Don't bury yourself in depression, because that is the only other alternative. You've got to somehow get into something that, you know, you can almost laugh at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, you know, become the fool again. All cycles open with this lightness, you know, because you're going to move on to the Arthur Road after this, and you're going to gain incredible psychological insight. You're going to free yourself from all of the misleaders who hate truth, hate wisdom, hate themselves, right? The misosophy. They hate wisdom and truth. You don't. So when you pick up those books that people like me recommend, you're doing it with a love, not an impatience. You're doing it saying, thank you, the Aladdin cave is open to me now. And when I say laughter, I mean laugh at the fact that everybody's insane, that everybody's mad, that everybody's lost. It's a big carnival. It's a big nightmare, but you have to separate yourself from it, you see? And in doing that, you have to have the mentality of an outsider. He's crying for them at the same time, but he's also laughing at their nonsense and their stupidity and saying, look, you know, you can't trap me with that anymore. You know, I'm on a great project here. And during that, and you know, we're going to be doing it on Sunday. This also is an attitude you must take even with the greatest in the land, not just with the politicians and their Punch and Judy shows and their idiotic, you know, histrionics, but the science, the materialistic science with their concepts of selfhood and subjectivity. You know, we're going to be going into that on Sunday. So there's a lot of ways to, you know, break the collective in your life and be okay. Mm-hmm. But see, the process is made harder, right? Because there is no silence. There is no peace. There is no aloneness anymore. There are things that definitely compromise this, right? But again, that's the work of trying to find a way around that for yourself. You know, there really is no easy way, you know, and again, that's the reason why a lot of people don't bother with it.